Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry, and on today's show, first up, my two concerns with paying TJ Watt and why I think the Steelers should pay him anyways. Then we'll get into Justin Simmons. He just detailed what he needs on his next team, and the Steelers need to provide him this if he's going to sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then we'll finish up today's show with an NFL media clown who predicts a 6-11 record for your Pittsburgh Steelers. Make sure you guys stick around to the end to see which media member that is. But thank you guys so much. We just passed 87,000 subscribers here on Steelers Talk. We are now the largest Steelers news program individually run anywhere on YouTube. That's all thanks to you guys. So if you guys want free, daily and informative Steelers content every single day on this channel and on this platform, click that subscribe button today and help us get to 90,000 subscribers. We are almost there. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. All right, so now I want to talk about TJ Watt today, guys, obviously because, he's not signed to that massive contract extension yet, and there's, a growing sense of impatience among Steelers fans to get this deal done. And the first thing I want to say here is that TJ Watt, when healthy, is still one of, if not the best defensive player in the National Football League. His ability to convert, his explosive first step with all the different moves that he has, his ghost move, his bend around the edge to win with true speed, his inside counters with a really good spin move, and, he's got a really good swim move as well. He's a really good run defender, and then on top of all that, he can drop into coverage and get interceptions and pass deflections as well as a true outside linebacker when this team asks him to do that, and then his ability to punch the football out and force fumbles is the best in the National Football League. His impact is unmatched by anybody in the National Football League. But I do get why some people in this fan base and, the media at large are wary about paying him now that he has passed the age of 30 years old, especially a figure like $40 million or more per season like Myles Garrett got this offseason from the Cleveland Browns. My two concerns about paying TJ Watt at this point in his career, especially that amount of money, especially if you're going to guarantee a lot of that money. Number one, he hasn't been able to stay healthy for a full season for the last 4 years. And then number two, after the age of 30, regression is a possibility on his next contract. And if you're paying him top of market money and he regresses, that's not going to be a great look for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it's going to limit what they can do from a team building perspective. But the truth is, guys, when it comes to that first point about injuries, we can point to a TJ Watt injury being what has derailed the Steelers season for the past 3 years. Okay, Watt is such an important piece to winning here in Pittsburgh that when he goes down, it's just like game over for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And he's been injured at some point during the year 3 straight years, and it has completely derailed this Steelers season. We take a look back to 2022, Kenny Pickett's rookie season. He had that torn pectoral muscle late in that first game against the Cincinnati Bengals, which they ended up winning, but then he missed the next 7 games. He also had arthroscopic surgery on his knee after having an injury in the preseason on that. So we missed 7 games. And when the Steelers had him on the field, they went 8-2 that year. And again, that's with Mitchell Trubisky and Kenny Pickett as their quarterbacks and Matt Canada as their offensive coordinator. They went 8-2. And then when he wasn't on the field, the team went 1-6. All right, so that would completely derailed the Steelers season. If Watt would have played the entire season healthy, they would have easily made the NFL playoffs. Then in 2023, last game of the year against the Baltimore Ravens, right? The game to get the team to the playoffs. They ended up winning the game and they ended up making the playoffs, but they lost TJ Watt to an MCL sprain, and of course he didn't play in that playoff game versus the Buffalo Bills, where of course Mason Rudolph was the starting quarterback and they didn't win that playoff game. Then we get to 2024. He has that ankle sprain in week 15 versus the Philadelphia Eagles, which limited his impact that he could have down the stretch for the Steelers defense. All right, this guy was the betting favorite by a wide margin. He had negative 220 odds to win the Defensive Player of the Year trophy last year before that injury. And then after that, you guys can see the production, and it just wasn't very good. He played in those 4 games, 3 regular season games and a playoff game. And in those 4 games, 0 sacks down the stretch. 0 forced fumbles, just 1 pass deflection, and 1 TFL, where before that, he was leading the league in many of these categories before that injury. So not only was Watt's impact from an individual standpoint not there, it affected the Steelers' defense at every single level. You guys can see here, and we've shown this graphic on the show a number of times, but the Steelers, as a team, are winning 2/3 of their games last year when TJ Watt was on the field and healthy, but then after the injury, didn't win a game those final 4 games. And then not only was the defense affected, they gave up 10 more points a game after the injury to TJ Watt, but also the offense almost got 10 less points per game as well. That is almost a 20-point swing from one player getting injured, and then the sacks and turnover production on defense obviously went down significantly as well. And the reason why that ankle injury really affected TJ Watt is because he, at his very core, is a speed rusher, and the way that he can really threaten opposing offensive tackles is that he's got that explosive first step, he's got that elite bend around the edge, and offensive tackles have to get out there really fast to be able to guard against that, which opens up the inside counters. But if they don't have that threat of the speed rush from TJ Watt, and after that ankle injury, he really didn't have that threat, it was a lot easier to cover him and to limit the impact he could have on the NFL football game there. And, I do think it's a fair question. Now, going through the last 3 years with these injuries that have completely derailed the Steelers' season, should the Steelers really be paying somebody that they are so dependent on to be able to stay healthy? Is that really something that they should be doing if he has a history of getting injured these past 3 seasons? And by the way, he's not getting any younger, and we all know with age means a more propensity to get injured. And then another fair concern when it comes to Watt is that for a player whose game centers around explosiveness and speed, now that he's getting past the age of 30, it's definitely a possibility that he could lose some of that explosiveness, that he could lose a little bit of that speed. And if that happens, you're not going to see Watt be as dominant as he was when he was 27, 28, even 29, early when he was a younger man. So we will see what ends up happening here, guys. But I also think it's too late to trade him, in my opinion. The Steelers have set their course here. They have decided that they're going to try and compete for a Super Bowl right now with Aaron Rodgers, who, by the way, is on a 1-year timeline, and Cam Hayward, who's on a 2-year timeline here. And the Steelers, in my opinion, can't win a Super Bowl without TJ Watt on the roster. Now, you guys might ask, what could the Steelers get in a trade for TJ Watt? And I think that it's likely just a day 2 pick for all the reasons that we've been laying out today. He has an injury history, right? He's over the age of 30. For his style of play, there could be some regression coming in. And then not only does the team that's trading for him have to give up a draft pick, but they have to likely give him the largest non-quarterback contract in the history of football. So these teams are going to be looking at a TJ Watt trade and say, no way we're giving you our first round pick. We're going to have to pay him $40+ million per season on top of all the risk that he comes with. So the Steelers would probably just get a second at best, but probably maybe even a 3rd round pick in exchange for TJ Watt. And that's just not enough value in return if you are the Pittsburgh Steelers, in my opinion. And my message to the Pittsburgh Steelers at this point in time, guys, is I understand the concerns that you might have about, guarantees 3-4 years into an extension, all that stuff. But too bad, man. You have to pay him at this point in the offseason to accomplish your short-term goals. And right now, the Steelers are in a short-term goal mindset, which is to win a Super Bowl in the next 2 years before Cam Hayward retires. And plain and simply, guys, you can't win a title without TJ Watt on the field, all right? Like, plain and simply, we have seen the impact that he has had on the Pittsburgh Steelers, defense and even offense here. You guys can see we looked at the 2024 impact after the injury. You just look at his general impact ever since he came to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, the Steelers win 2/3 of their games when Watt is on the field. When he's not on the field, they win less than 10% of their games. They've only won 1 game in TJ Watt's entire career as a Pittsburgh Steeler where he wasn't on the field. Of course, the opponent points per game, the Steelers defense gives up pretty much a touchdown less per game. The offense gets affected by that as well, and the sacks and turnover production, once again, takes a big decline. So if you trade him away at this point, you're not going to be getting a player as good as TJ Watt in return in a trade at this point in the offseason, so your team is not going to be a Super Bowl hopeful this year if TJ Watt is not on the roster. Now, for the record here, guys, if you wanted to trade TJ Watt this offseason, you didn't want to pay him all that money, and you wanted to fire Mike Tomlin, trade Cam Hayward, trade Minkah Fitzpatrick, draft a rookie quarterback, and completely embrace a rebuild this year, I would have been completely on board with that. I said that at the beginning of the offseason, but now that the Steelers have gone down this win now kind of mindset, they have to be able to secure Watt for this season. And the strategy that they've chosen, the short-term strategy of trying to win now, you have to pay TJ Watt. You likely have to guarantee a good portion of his contract over 3, even 4 years, depending on how much Watt wants. And Watt knows he has the leverage right now, and he knows the Steelers essentially have to accept whatever number that he wants at this point in time. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comment section. Is TJ Watt worth more than $40 million per season on his next deal? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comment section. This will be the pinned comment on today's show, so YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. And when that happens, take advantage of that time. But give me a yes or a no down there in the comment section. So now let's shift over to free agency here, where Justin Simmons is a popular free agency target in Steelers Nation right now. And he recently said that the number one thing that he is looking for in his next team that he plans to sign with in 2025 needs to be a Super Bowl contender. This is what Simmons had to say recently. I'm being a little bit more picky where we want to go and where we want to call home the next 2 years, a year, whatever it is. But a contender is number one on the list right now. Okay, so the Pittsburgh Steelers are a team that he could potentially land with, but the big question that I have on my mind here is, how does Simmons view the Steelers? Do they view this team with Aaron Rodgers as their starting quarterback as a team that could legitimately make a run for a Lombardi trophy or not? If he does, then I think that he would absolutely want to come play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. If not, obviously that takes the Steelers off the table in terms of him, but I personally wouldn't hate the signing. I think that Simmons is still somebody that plays with really good instincts, kind of similar in the play style to Minkah Fitzpatrick, although I am a little bit worried about his ability to tackle. I believe his missed tackle rate was like 20% last year, which is just not good enough. And Juan Thornhill, I think, is probably a little bit more of a reliable tackler than Justin Simmons is at this point in their respective careers, but it definitely seems like Pittsburgh likes Juan Thornhill. All right, it just seems like that they really like his skill set, that they really like how he fits in this defense as that true free safety that can tackle. He's shown that he can be a ball hawk in his career as well. He's just generally a very solid player when he's been healthy. Now, he hasn't been healthy the last 2 years, so the last 2 years of film in Cleveland haven't been fantastic. But, during his time with the Kansas City Chiefs, he absolutely proved that he could be a cog in a championship-winning defense. That's what the Steelers are hoping that he can be this year. Now, before we get into our final topic of the day, guys, click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Like I mentioned earlier, guys, we just passed over 87,000 subscribers on this channel. Our goal is to get to 100,000 subscribers by the middle of next NFL season here. So if you want to help us accomplish that goal today, we provide you guys daily Steelers videos that are in-depth and informative. We also have breaking news coverage every time the Steelers make a big move. I was on vacation when the Jalen Ramsey trade went down. I immediately got on a live show despite that. We also have weekly live shows, and it's all 100% free, guys. So if you love the Steelers, you want daily news updates, this is the place that you get those. Click that subscribe button if you haven't already. So now NFL Network's Adam Rank predicts that the Pittsburgh Steelers will have a 6-11 record for the 2025 season. Now, before we get into anything and we go over Rank's kind of predictions here, he hates Aaron Rodgers. All right, he hates him, and so wherever Rodgers was going to go, you could just know that Rank was not going to be a big fan of that football team. But this is how he sees the Steelers season going. Week 1 at the Jets, he has Aaron Rodgers going to his former stadium and losing to the former Steelers starting quarterback, Justin Fields, last year's Week 1 starter. Then the home opener versus Seattle also has the Steelers losing that game. But then 3 straight wins against the Patriots, Vikings, and Browns respectively to get to 3-2. But then here on this graphic, they lose 3 of the next 4, losing to Cincinnati on Thursday Night Football, Green Bay on Sunday Night Football, and then the Chargers in Week 10. But he does have them beating the Indianapolis Colts in Week 9. Then rattle off 4 straight losses along with that Chargers loss to make it 5 straight losses to the Bengals, Bears, Bills, and Ravens respectively. That's a tough stretch during the season there. But then Week 15 has them bouncing back against the Charmin soft Miami Dolphins there in Week 15, then losing to the Lions and the lowly Browns on the road in Week 17, then finishing out with a win versus the Baltimore Ravens in Week 18 for a final record of just 6-11. and 11 for Aaron Rodgers, Mike Tomlin, Jalen Ramsey, DK Metcalf, and this Pittsburgh Steelers team. By the way, the Steelers won 8 games with Duck Hodges. They won, as a starting quarterback for like half the games that year. They won 9 games with Kenny Pickett as their starter for most games, and Mitchell Trubisky. They won 10 games with a combination of Pickett, Trubisky, and Rudolph. But no, Aaron Rodgers is the one that's going to get them to go all the way down to 6-11. All right, Adam. I think this prediction is a fucking joke. I think it has no bearing on the history of the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially under Mike Tomlin, where even if shit does hit the fan, like, he's able to keep things afloat and keep things relatively competitive. I think that maybe the downside to this year, probably the very floor for me, is 8-9, and that's if Aaron Rodgers is really not it this year. But I like the defense. I like the the additions they made to the offense as well this year. I think this is the best Steelers roster we have seen since 2017 in quite a while, and I'm excited to see what this team is going to look like this year. So let's throw that 6-11 prediction out in the trash bin because it sucks. Let's go over my updated Steelers record prediction so you guys can actually know what maybe to expect heading into the 2025 season. And yes, I'm going to predict a very fast start for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they're going to win versus Justin Fields and the Jets in week 1. They'll win their home opener versus Sam Darnold, and this defense will have him seeing ghosts in week 2. Then week 3, I think Drake May, similarly, young quarterback versus this very, very tough defense. I think it's not going to be great for Drake May there in week 3. Same thing for J.J. McCarthy in his first season with Minnesota. It's going to be a rockin' stadium there in Dublin in week 4. I think going into that week 5 bye, you are undefeated. Then coming out of the bye, Mike Tomlin is excellent, and the Browns stink, so there's a win there. You got the Bengals in week 7. I think they split versus the Bengals this year, so I'm going to have them win that football game. I'm going to have Aaron Rodgers get his revenge versus the Green Bay Packers and play better than Jordan Love in that week 8 matchup. Now, I will have them lose 3 straight games here. Indianapolis, Los Angeles, and Cincinnati. All right, Shane Steichen's done a really good job as the Colts head coach against the Steelers defense. The Chargers are a tough team on the road, and then the Bengals are a really good team coming off that physical matchup versus the Chargers. But Aaron Rodgers owns the Chicago Bears. I expect him to win his final game at Soldier Field there in Chicago in week 12. Then I have them losing another pair of games there in Buffalo and Baltimore. But then week 15, they get back on the horse with a win versus the Miami Dolphins at home. It's going to be a cold weather game. Miami doesn't play well in cold. I do think they'll lose to Detroit in week 16, but that they finish out the season with 2 straight wins versus division rivals in the Browns and the Baltimore Ravens. And my updated record prediction here, guys, is 11-5 for your Pittsburgh Steelers. I think it's going to be a very fast start. I think that there will be some losses, in the 2/3 kind of section of the schedule because that's a very tough stretch, admittedly. But 11-6, not 11-5. That's a mistake there on the L3. But 11-6 is my updated record prediction for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that should put you in position to compete for the top of the AFC North this year, depending on how well the Bengals and Ravens do this year. But that would certainly land this team in the playoffs yet again. So it's your turn. Down there in the comments section, let me know what you guys think. What is your Steelers record prediction for this season? I've got 11-6 right now, guys. Adam Rank has 6-11. It's probably going to be somewhere in the middle there. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section, what your record prediction is for the black and gold this year. All right, that'll be it for today's edition of Steelers News and Rumors. Guys, thank you guys so much for making it to the end of today's show. We got more Steelers coverage coming your way tomorrow, so click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Until next time, guys, here we go, Steelers.